and thanks for tuning into our presentation. My name is Justin Clark, and I'm a graduate student at The Ohio State University, and today I will be presenting an assessment of on-orbit cryogenic refueling. We'll be discussing optimal depot orbits, launch vehicle mass savings, and deep space mission opportunities. So on-orbit refueling can be thought of as like a gas station in space. These allow you to refuel your spacecraft in orbit and then get back on the road towards your destination. And they're advantageous in several ways, one of which you can prove through the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation to reduce mission mass and therefore also reducing rocket complexity and cost. And you can see the Tsiolkovsky rocket equation is there on the right-hand side. Additionally, these allow you to spend less time building really large, complex rockets and more time exploring the solar system. And they also promote a sustainable presence in space. But they do have their disadvantages as well, and these include the fact that cryogenic fuels, if they are used, they have to be kept cold. You have issues with boil-off arising, and you really have to store these fuels in liquid form, otherwise they will expand and escape your container. Additionally, there's also an issue with transferring propellants between tanks, such as a depot tank or another rocket tank. And to really demonstrate what we mean by on-orbit cryogenic refueling, here are a few concepts and examples to consider. So your refueling depot can be like a semi-permanent station in orbit that you meet up with and then refuel and then go on, or it can be rendezvousing rockets. And by rendezvousing rockets, we mean like a primary rocket and a secondary rocket, with a primary rocket carrying your payload, and then a secondary rocket meeting up with it in orbit, refueling the primary rocket, and then the primary rocket continues on to the destination. Some of the examples from the modern space architectures include ULA's proposed design, and this is more of a semi-permanent station in space that you can rendezvous with, refuel, and then go on. We also have SpaceX's Starship, where a primary rocket will refuel from a secondary rocket, and then the primary Starship will go on to Mars, for example. There's also Dynetics' Lunar Lander, which will refuel in low Earth orbit and then continue on to the moon for its mission. So the idea of cryogenic refueling has actually been around for quite a long time, but just recently there have been some really promising demonstrations of the enabling technologies for this. One of these demonstrations occurred in 2019 when Robotic Refueling Mission 3, or RM3, a NASA-sponsored experiment, was sent up to the International Space Station, mounted on the exterior, and then demonstrated things like propellant transfer and zero boil-off. And you can see that there's a picture of that payload on the right-hand side. Additionally, there's also a really promising NASA demonstration mission coming in hopefully 2023, where they want to put a semi-permanent depot up in space on its own, and then they're going to try to demonstrate more of the technologies. And to be clear, some of these enabling technologies include transfer propellants in space in low-G environments, also demonstrating vent to chill and no vent fill. And then there's also boil-off technologies or zero boil-off technologies, and these include advanced insulation and also cryocoolers that utilize electricity to keep your fuel cold. And with all that being said, I really think that the projected availability for on-orbit cryogenic refueling is within the next 10 years, and so it's really an exciting area and an exciting time. So what's next? So past and present research really focuses more on how to build it and how to enable it, but not how to use it in the most optimal way. And so we really thought of the idea of, is there a best refueling orbit to minimize overall mission mass? And to that we say yes, and we've actually developed a method for determining optimal refueling orbits. So the method stems from the idea that there are refueling orbits on the way between a initial low Earth orbit and a targeted orbit. And these on-the-way orbits mean no delta V penalty and no additional fuel to go to them. So what we do from here is we iteratively test all orbits between an initial orbit and a final orbit to find the optimal orbit. And again, a valid refueling orbit will be all elliptical orbits in all inclinations between an initial low Earth orbit and a target orbit. And we have an example for you. So here is an example of a Mars mission hyperbola in orange in the picture. You can see in the picture that the initial low Earth orbit is in white, and there are elliptical orbits between that initial low Earth orbit and the targeted Mars hyperbolic orbit. And really what you can do here and what you can see here is that these orbits, these elliptical orbits, are in between the low Earth orbit and the hyperbolic orbit. And so you can go to these orbits with no penalty, no delta V penalty, refuel there, and then fire again, and then get back on that hyperbolic trajectory. And so it's really these orbits that we're considering to determine if there's an optimal orbit for optimal mass savings. Additionally, what we do is we couple in some equations and methods to size primary, secondary rockets, and it really gives us a model that takes a destination, rocket stage mass ratios, and specific impulses, and produces a comparison between the optimal refueling mission mass and compares that to a no refueling single rocket case. So we're comparing what happens if we go to the best orbit, refuel in the best orbit, get the best possible mass savings, and what happens if we just take a single rocket to our destination that's large and heavy, and we compare the masses produced by both of those. So now that we have our model that computes optimal refueling orbits and calculates optimal mass savings, what we really wanted to do was find some applications to demonstrate its power and to demonstrate what's really occurring here. So one of the ways we did that was by conducting a parametric study, and this investigates several different parameters, including rocket parameters and mission parameters, and computes and sees how the parameters affect where an optimal refueling orbit occurs and what the resulting mission mass is as a result of that. Some of the parameters involved here include specific impulse, mass ratios of your stage, whether you're utilizing one or two stage rocket, utilization of a lunar refueling orbit with lunar produced fuels, and then also utilization of orbital transfer vehicles that you also complement that with electric propulsion systems. Some of the key findings that we got out of this parametric study were that orbital transfer vehicles can help you save overall mass, of course, especially in deeper gravity wells such as the Earth as compared with the Moon. You save more mass by utilizing orbital transfer vehicles here. Additionally, for missions that require more mass and have less efficient systems, either in terms of mass ratio or ISP, you get larger mass savings here by utilizing cryogenic refueling. Additionally, among all the orbits you looked at, lunar refueling orbits with lunar fuel help you save the most mass out of any of them. And we found that this could be anywhere from 7 to 10 times. And so our final point is that for like rendezvousing rockets, this includes two rockets that dock rendezvous refuel with a primary and a secondary rocket. The optimal refueling orbit occurs where the primary rocket arrives empty and the secondary rocket refuels it to 100%, and then the primary rocket can finish its mission with just enough fuel. So in addition to the parametric study we just conducted, we also wanted to apply the model to a few other examples as well. So we thought of two modern day examples that we could apply it to. One of these examples was NASA's Artemis 1 mission, and by utilizing optimal refueling orbits, your mission mass is decreased by about 2.1 to 2.22 times over the current architecture mass in place. Additionally, we looked at a Starship Mars mission, and we found that by utilizing cryogenic refueling, you can reduce your mission mass by about 1.11 to 4.61 times. And of course, more details on the methods and the results can be found in the paper that you can read at your leisure. So in summary, cryogenic refueling is really a game-changing technology. It has the potential to revolutionize space exploration by saving mass of your rockets, saving complexity of these rockets, and cutting down on costs for missions. Really what this can do is create a cost-effective way to explore the inner planets of our solar system, and by coupling this technology with others, such as nuclear thermal propulsion, for example, I believe that we can unlock the solar system to both human and unmanned exploration. So thanks for tuning into our presentation. Please consider reading our paper because there's a lot more details in there than we can really cover in this presentation. I'd also like to give special thanks to Dr. Elizabeth Newton of the Battelle Center at The Ohio State University, Ms. Jenny Shields of the Battelle Center as well, Dr. John Horak of the Ohio State Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, and Dr. Jason Hartwig of NASA Glenn Research Center. So thanks for tuning in, everyone.